Today we are going to talk about the college application process. We're going to go through some timelines, some things you need to be working on throughout this school year to help you. And next week we will come into your Social Studies 12 or government class, and we're going to meet with you in small groups so that we can talk about this in more detail and find out about your needs and see if there are any questions that you might have individually. Also, there is a senior information night for parents, and that will be next week. And they are invited in to review some of this information with us. So let's get started. During your junior year, we asked you to do 3 things. That is, besides working hard and building your GPA. But we asked you to shop for colleges, to visit colleges, and to test, to take the ACT and SAT. This year, you will see that your timeline is much more detailed and broken down. We ask you in September, October area to take or repeat the ACT and or ACT. We want you to have both of those completed and possibly repeat your best one before your application process is complete with your school's deadline. Some of those might be January 1st or February 1st. And so it would be great to get those things done early in the year. We ask that at least one parent, and you're welcome to come with them, attend the Senior Information Night, which is September 30th this year. We also ask that you visit and revisit colleges. So if you haven't visited those schools yet that you were thinking of applying to, go ahead and do that. And then we'll want you to revisit those colleges throughout the year so that you can get a good idea of which college you'd like to attend. We need you to solidify your college choices so that we can help you with the college application process. Later on, and definitely next week, we'll talk about how many colleges you need to narrow it down to. And then you apply to colleges beginning even now through December 1st. We really want you to get your applications done by December 1st so that we can get your transcripts mailed before the winter break. And then if you can see into the winter months, there's a financial aid night that will be held January 7th. And then parents are asked to complete the free financial aid form, the FAFSA, which we'll talk about as the year progresses. And then you do your final college visits winter into early spring. And then you can apply for local scholarships, which will happen during March. And we'll tell you more about that later in the year. And it will be posted on our website. And then later in the year, you will receive financial aid packages from the colleges. And that is based on that free financial aid form, the FAFSA, that you completed in January. And then by May 1st, your final selection of a college needs to be completed and turned into that college. And you need to let your other colleges know that you are no longer interested. So here's the information on the ACT should you need to test or retest. You can go to the ACT website to register at www.actstudent.org. Here are the costs for the ACT. If you haven't already taken it with the writing portion, you need to do that and pay the $48 and sign up to do that extended portion of the ACT. Colleges will want that score. The upcoming test dates for ACT are October 23rd and December 11th. So there's a couple that are coming up, and you really need to get it done during one of those times. After that, may be too late for your colleges. Now with the SAT. The website for SAT is www.collegeboard.com. The cost is $47, and here are the upcoming test dates for SAT, October 9th, November 6th, and December 4th. Here is our Aurora High School code. This code is used for so many things. When you register for ACT, when you register for SAT, when you complete your college applications, you will be asked this code. So this is important that you have this code handy when completing any of those forms. Here's an application checklist, and we'll get into more of this next week when we meet in small groups. But really, it's important to get organized and check deadlines before you begin your applications. We'll talk about next week how to get your transcripts released from our high school guidance office. And you need to do this in advance of deadlines. So again, to get organized, have your list of colleges, and the deadlines for each of those applications will be helpful so that you can get this accomplished on time.
Currently, over 20% of students apply to 7 or more schools. What do you think of this number, and would you recommend that students apply to more or fewer schools than that?
That's a good question. I think the number of applications have gone up dramatically because of the ease of the application. It's easier to apply now than it was in the past. I think the number there's still kind of the golden rule in terms of admissions, from my standpoint, is that if you apply to a school and if you're offered admission and if everything would work out in terms of program and financial aid and all the things that need to happen post-admission, and you say, yes, if that happens, I would gladly go to that school, then it's probably okay to apply. But if students are applying just to gather acceptances or to hear from schools or have schools tell them how wonderful they are, that's not a good idea. I know there are many students who apply to schools who have no intention, even if everything worked out, of attending that school. So I think that golden rule still plays. I think that number has increased, like I said before, because of the ease of
Because
use.
of the internet?
Well, yeah, electronic applications has made it easier to apply. Schools are, at least with us, we really encourage students to apply because we want them to be part of our process. That's really that's one step in the process. But students that apply to 20 schools or some numbers that are like that, I think that skews the average too. I mean, that skews. I think still students are looking to apply to 5 schools, but you get that 20 thrown in there, and then all of a sudden the average goes up to 7.
Next week, we'll also get into detail on what is early decision, what is early action, and if you should be using one of those options when you apply to colleges. And then also there's the common application. We will, again, get into detail on this next week when we have more time and you're in your small group with your counselor. But really, the common application is something very helpful. If the colleges you're applying to accept the common application, it's so handy because you complete one application and it gets sent to several colleges. The website for Common App to find out if your college is on your list accept this application is www.commonapp.org. And it is used by over 400 colleges, so many of your colleges may accept this form. And again, you're filling out one application for several colleges, so it's very helpful. Although you can see by the last bullet point here that many of those colleges require a supplemental form, maybe a couple of extra questions. So that will be on the website, and you'll be able to double check that there. You begin to think about, well, first of all, you'll have to find out if the colleges you're applying to need a recommendation from a teacher, and if so, how many? 1, 2, possibly 3. The typical answer to that would probably be 2. But you'll discover that as you go to each of their websites and when you visit colleges. But we will go through more details on these teacher recommendations next week, but at least be thinking about who you would like to write letters for you, who might be important for you to choose, depending on what major you're going to have. And we'll talk again about that later. And also, sometimes colleges require a counselor letter of recommendation. And for that, we ask that you complete a brag sheet that we'll give you next week. And we'll talk about what you need to do for that and what colleges may require that. And we'll help you through that. If you are planning on playing a sport in college, you're thinking possibly of Division I, Division II, or maybe even Division III, and you're not sure if you could move to a Division I or II, you should really go to this website and get cleared through this clearinghouse, and it's www.ncaaclearinghouse.net. Some useful tips for college applications are listed here, and we will really get into these in detail, but one thing you need to know is that you need to get things done in advance before winter break. So we'll talk about more about these deadlines later on next week.